For our lesson of Scripture this morning, I'll be reading from the book of Genesis, beginning in chapter 6 with verses 5 through 22, and then concluding with chapter 9, verses 7 through 17. Hear now the reading of God's holy word. The Lord saw that the wickedness of humankind was great in the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of their hearts was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made humankind on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. So the Lord said, I will blot out from the earth the human beings I have created, people together with animals and creeping things and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the sight of the Lord. These are the descendants of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God. And Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw that the earth was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted its ways upon the earth. And God said to Noah, I have determined to make an end to all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. Now I am going to destroy them along with the earth. Make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you are to make it. The length of the ark, 300 cubits, its width, 50 cubits, and its height, 30 cubits. Make a roof for the ark, and finish it to a cubit above. And put the door of the ark in its side. Make it with lower, second, and third decks. For my part, I am going to bring a flood of waters on the earth, to destroy from under heaven all flesh in which is the breath of life. Everything that is on the earth shall die. But I will establish my covenant with you. And you shall come into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing of all flesh you shall bring 2 of every kind into the ark, to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female, of the birds according to their kinds, and of the animals according to their kinds, of every creeping thing of the ground according to its kind, 2 of every kind shall come into you, to keep them alive. Also take with you every kind of food that is eaten, and store it up, and it shall serve as food for you and for them. Noah did this. He did all that God commanded him. Now continuing to the end of the story. And you, be fruitful and multiply. Abound on the earth and multiply in it. Then God said to Noah and to his sons with him, As for me, I am establishing my covenant with you and your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the domestic animals, and every animal of the earth with you, as many as came out of the ark. I establish my covenant with you, that never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of a flood, and never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. God said, This is a sign of the covenant that I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for all future generations. I have set my bow in the clouds, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. When I bring clouds over the earth, and the bow is seen in the clouds, I will remember my covenant that is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And the water shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh. When the bow is in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. God said to Noah, This is the sign of the covenant that I have established between me and all flesh that is on the earth. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God. Noah and the ark. We have a great deal of detail about the dimensions of the ark, about what God wanted and how he wanted Noah to go about it. But there is so much missing about things that we would like to know. Every one of us, the first time we truly listened to this story and heard the word cubit, all of us in our mind or out loud asked that question. What's a cubit? Well, it's an ancient measurement. adults, we come tall, we come short, we come in between. But one of the things about us that is remarkably the same is the distance between the tip of our middle finger and our elbow. That is a cubit. And that's one of the measures that the ancients used. You've never built a house using cubits, have you? No. There's so many things we want to know. A lot of questions about the ark that come up when we think about it. And we really don't have the answer to them. I remember one Sunday morning some years ago, I decided to talk about Noah and the ark. And a young boy raised his hand and asked, how did Noah make a giraffe fit in the ark? And I thought for a second, and I looked him in the eye, and I said, Noah, cut a circle out of the deck, poked the giraffe's neck through it, and gave the giraffe a rain hat to wear. I was hoping nobody would go home and go over those chapters in the Bible trying to find out about the giraffe. Every culture almost has a story about an ancient flood in prehistoric times. Almost 300 cultures, large ones and small ones, in their history mention a great flood. It happened. And many of those cultures have a story that tries to make sense of and explain whatever that great flood was. We have a story that makes sense of the flood. And as you would expect, that story explains things in terms of how God used the flood to solve a problem. In fact, the story of Noah's Ark is the story of God's first attempt to fix a problem. What problem? The problem of human sin. Sin, the things that people did and people that we do that God asked us not to do. The things that we do that cause chaos and trouble in our lives and the lives of those around us. When we think of fixing the problem of sin, we go straight to Jesus and the cross. Because the cross and Jesus are our focus as Christians of how God dealt with sin. But Jesus and the cross was God's second attempt to fix the problem of sin. First attempt, Noah and the ark, and let's not forget the rainbow. Noah and the ark have a lot to tell us about God. And once we get past all the visuals, the things that really interest us, the ark itself, the construction, the animals, the logistics, those kinds of things, there are a lot of clues in this story as to how God thinks, how God feels, how God operates. We might call the story of Noah destruction or salvation by destruction. How does it work? You wipe out almost everything and you go start over somewhere, and you start over with a very small, select group. You pick the best people on earth, which happened to be Noah and his family, and you count on them to make your new beginning work. And what happens? They started over, made the same mistakes, and over time began to show the same disrespect in their dealings with one another. And inevitably, when people begin to show disrespect for their fellow human beings, they also begin to show it for God. God's strategy was to pick the best person on earth and launch a new beginning with a small group. Well, didn't work, did it? If at first you don't succeed, the old saying goes, what do? Try again. So much for counting on the best person on earth to make your plan work. What do the second time if you're God to solve the problem? Well, God ups the ante by picking the best person in heaven. And instead of wiping out humanity, God puts the best person in heaven right in the middle of everything that's going on, right in the crosshairs. How can a God who did what he did with Noah to solve the problem of sin, lay waste was his solution? How can a God who did that turn around and do what he did with Jesus? Allow him to go to the cross. That's quite a different strategy. Doesn't quite make sense until you factor in the rainbow. The rainbow, been around for a while, and yet it is as fresh as yesterday's rain, isn't it? What is the rainbow? The rainbow is a sign of the covenant that God made with Noah, not just with Noah, but with Noah on behalf of all humankind, and that includes us. And what does the rainbow tell us at the end of this story? Of a failed attempt to solve the problem of sin, at the end of the near destruction of all civilization. The rainbow tells us that God has compassion for his creation. And because God has compassion for his creation, God has compassion for us because we're part of that creation. The rainbow tells us that God is willing to offer second chances. The rainbow tells us that in the harshest things we may sometimes witness God do, there are good intentions. There are hints of God's love all over the place as the episode of the flood comes to an end. And the rainbow is posted in the sky as the promise of a new tomorrow. That is the covenant that God made. I've heard some of the elders here on the boundary, Pearl Reagan especially among them, make the comment that in our nation's history, every covenant that the U.S. government made with Native Americans anywhere, the government broke. That's 100%. In fact, I think I remember hearing Pearl say 100% broken covenants in a conversation one day. What's the thing about the covenants that God makes? There are not a lot of them, but there is one thing consistently about the ones that are recorded in the Scriptures. God never breaks anything about a covenant that He makes with His people. Our ancestors, all of us who are part of the human race, have in some way done God about the same way God has done the Native Americans. We've broken our end of the covenant that God made with us. And yet, there's a faithfulness about God that comes with the rainbow that says, however He tries to solve the problem of sin, He isn't going to do it the way He did it the first time. And there's beginning to be, who knows how many thousand years ago that is, some love and some compassion showing through. And the rainbow is a sign of hope. The rainbow is a gift of God. It keeps on giving over and over again from generation to generation. And the gift that it gives is the ongoing reminder that God's faithfulness on His end of things is beyond question. We may not win any blue ribbons for consistent faithfulness, but that's not true of God. No matter where we are, what we're doing, how we're feeling, what we're thinking, His love for us is constant. It's there. You can just about draw a line from the rainbow that God put in the sky at the end of the great flood and connect that line with the cross. What's the one constant? It's the faithfulness of God. And we can see it at both ends. The rainbow and the cross. Both of those are a covenant God made with us, intended to secure our salvation and deal with the problem of sin. That faithfulness is something in the kind of world we live that we really need to turn to God and treasure, because we don't see nearly as much faithfulness, consistency, dependability around us in the world as we would like. But all we have to do is look to God, and it is there. And it's in stark contrast to the sometimes casual ways we deal with God. The patience of God is unbelievable. The love of God, it's unfathomable. And it deserves better from all of us. Next time you see a rainbow, well, let's say every time we see a rainbow, let's not let the moment pass with a, wow, look at that. Quick, get the cell phone. we'll take a picture and post it on Facebook. No. The thing to do after we admire the beauty of the rainbow is to remember why the rainbow is there. To remind us of the utter faithfulness and dependability of God. And reminding ourselves of that, thankfulness is something that should just come out so naturally. And if thankfulness and gratitude comes out of remembering the faithfulness of God, it will overflow into our living. And that is something that will make God smile. Amen.